Segment 1. The Fall into the Heartwood's Yard. The sirens always sound different when they're meant for you. Sharper, closer, like they're inside your skull instead of chasing your back. My lungs burned as I tore through the tree line at the edge of town. Wet leaves snapping under my boots. One wrong turn from the city lights to the dark silence of suburbia. Sanctions make you a criminal just for surviving. They call it justice, I call it Tuesday. Behind my guard drones, real ones this time. Not the cheap surveillance toys. Their rotors cutting through the night air like angry hornets. I hit the fence without thinking. Chain link, too high for a clean climb. But I'd done worse in heavier armor. The metal groaned under my weight as I vaulted over and landed in someone's backyard. Grass, wet, smelled like soap and rain. 3 figures froze near the back porch. Elves, kids at first glance, but magic hums off them like static. The eldest dark hair, black hoodie, that look people wear when they've been fighting the world too long. Her hand twitched, not for a weapon, for instinct. I didn't think, I commanded. Sit. The word didn't come out of my mouth, it pressed into their skulls like a shove. They dropped before they even knew why. The younger one gasped. The middle one's eyes burned green for half. A second before I crushed it with another push, stay down. Then silence. My breath echoed louder than theirs. I locked the gate with a flick of my mind iron, bending just enough to jam it shut. No one gets in, no one gets out. Footsteps thundered past the fence guards scanning. Voices crackling over radios. I crouched low. Mask wet with rain and sweat. When the noise faded, I looked at the girls still frozen, trembling, angry. I'm not here to hurt you, I said. But my voice sounded like gravel and regret. The eldest glared at me anyway. Brave, stupid. The kind of courage you only get when you don't yet know what the world will take from you. Then I ran, back through the trees, back to the silence that fits men like me better than any home. It didn't matter what I told them, they'd already remember me wrong. A monster fell from the sky and made them kneel. That's all they'd know. For now. Segment 2, the return and the deer. The woods behind their house never slept. The trees creaked like old soldiers trading stories. And I listened, waiting for guilt to fade. It didn't. 3 nights passed since I hit their yard. 3 nights since I saw those faces, one furious, one frightened, one too calm for her age. And her, the eldest, Lyrza Heartwood, the girl I'd once spared on a field painted in ash. She didn't recognize me, that's the part that stung. I told myself I'd stay away, but then I saw them again through the tree line, moving careful. Quiet, too thin. Hunger leaves a mark. Even elves can't hide it. So I hunted, brought down a deer at dawn. The kind of kill that used to feed 20 men in the war. Now it was just a peace offering. 1 body for 3 mouths. I dragged it to their fence line, laid it down by the grass still scarred from my landing. Thought about leaving before they noticed. Then the back door opened. 3 shadows, her voice first. Calm, watchful, a commander's daughter who'd learned how to sound unafraid. You again? She didn't shout, she didn't flinch. Just studied me like I was an equation she couldn't quite solve. Easy, I said, raising both hands. I'm not here for trouble. Her sister Vespera stepped forward, fists tight. You think dropping a dead deer makes us friends? No, I said. It makes you less hungry. Lyrza's gaze flicked to the carcass, then back at me. The faintest flicker in her eyes' recognition trying to surface. I saw it. She didn't. You shouldn't be here, she said. I live here, I told her. Out there, past the tree line. That made her hesitate, not fear calculation. Why? Because I've got nowhere else to go. The youngest, Lanaya, whispered something soft. He doesn't sound mean anymore. That almost made me smile. Smart kid. Lyris's eyes sharpened again. You invade our home, then act like some kind of stray. You think this makes up for it? No, I said, but I came to apologize. You were caught in something that never should have reached your yard. Her jaw tightened. You talk like you know what that's like. I almost told her right there about the blood, the mud, the day her parents fell, about the elf girl screaming in the smoke. But I didn't, not yet. Maybe I do, I said. Come see where I live, if you want the truth. Then I turned back into the trees. Didn't look over my shoulder, didn't need to. The silence that followed me back was heavier than the deer I'd carried. Section 3, the campfire and the truth. The fire crackled low, the wood popping beneath the faint drizzle that slipped through the thin canopy of the woods. Karg's war mask sat beside him in the dirt, blackened with ash and old blood. The smoke from the pit curled around it like ghosts that refused to leave. Lyrissa sat across from him, arms crossed tight, her jaw clenched. She didn't trust him, not even a little, but she couldn't walk away. Not yet. Karg's voice broke the quiet. Rough, but low. I knew your parents. She froze, eyes narrowing. You what? I knew them. Probably better than you did. He didn't flinch when her glare sharpened. They were warriors, real ones. Not the kind that hide behind flags or orders. Lyris's throat went dry. You don't get to talk about them. He stared into the fire. They were the only ones on your side who didn't treat us like animals. When your father handled prisoner exchanges, he made sure my men were fed, not executed. Your mother, he paused. A faint shift of his jaw. She shared a drink with me once, laughed about how the war would chew us all up, no matter who won. The words hit her like stones. For a heartbeat, she didn't know if she wanted to scream or cry. You're lying, she whispered. I wish I was. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, eyes dark behind the firelight. They were soldiers, warriors, the kind who remembered mercy when everyone else forgot how. She was trembling, not with fear, but with everything she'd been told collapsing inside her. They said orcs were savages. They were wrong. I leaned back, watching the fire's reflection blur in her eyes. We didn't lose the war because we were weak. We lost because we were tired. Because the elves started it and no one was brave enough to. Ended until it burned everything we had left. Her voice broke. You expect me to just believe that? No, I expect you to think about it. The fire hissed as rain fell through the branches. The smoke turned gray, rising like ghosts that didn't know they were dead yet. Lyris's eyes met mine again. For a long moment, neither of us moved. Lyris's lips trembled. Then why did they die? Karg's gaze hardened, though his voice stayed even. Because mercy dies first in war. He poked at the fire with a stick, sparks rising like fleeting souls. When the order came to burn Elden Hollow, both sides lost whatever honor was left. They were trying to save civilians, and they got caught in the middle. Lyris's eyes glistened in the glow. You talk like you were there. Karg said nothing. His silence spoke more than words ever could. The fire hissed under the rain's hiss. Between them, only the quiet breath of smoke. Section 4, Ashes and Rain. The fire burned lower now, fighting the damp that clung to the air. Lyrissa hadn't left yet. She lingered near the edge of the light, her eyes still locked on the dying flames like she could pull answers from them. Karg didn't speak first this time. He sat heavy, elbows on his knees, the smoke curling around his scarred hands. The rain dripped through the branches in lazy rhythm, hissing when it hit the coals. Finally, she said quietly, You don't sound like the monster they said you were. Karg snorted, not from amusement, but weariness. Monsters are easier to hate. Keeps people from asking why things happened. Her brow furrowed. You think you can justify what your people did? He met her gaze, unflinching. No, but I can damn sure explain why. You ever seen a child starve because trade sanctions choke your city? You ever watch your own kind fight over scraps of rusted metal? That's what your council did when they signed the peace. Lyrsa said nothing. The firelight painted her face in fractured gold, the mix of anger and guilt impossible to read. Karg's tone dropped lower, almost distant. I fought because I believed the war could end. I surrendered because I thought peace would save us. Turns out both were lies. For a long time, neither spoke. Only the crackle of wet wood filled the air. At last, she said softly, "You sound like someone who's still fighting." He looked up then, and for a moment his expression softened. "Maybe I am." The rain began again, gentle at first, then harder, steady enough to flatten what was left of the flames. Smoke curled low, twisting around them in slow broken waves. Lyrsa stood. She didn't speak, didn't need to. The kind of silence that passed between them wasn't awkward, it was understanding. A soldier's silence, the kind that says enough for tonight. She pulled her hood up, turned, and walked back toward the trees. The light caught her briefly, a faint shimmer, against the rain. Then she was gone, swallowed by the dark. Karg stayed seated for a while, staring into the smoldering pit, until it was nothing but a faint red glow under a curtain of rain. The air grew colder. The forest went quiet. He reached down and pulled the war mask from beside him. The old iron caught the last flicker of light, dented, cracked, still carrying the smoke of battles long dead. He held it in both hands, thumb tracing the edge where his blood had once dried. "This thing saw too much," he muttered. Then he tossed it into the fire. The flames caught fast, licking at the blackened metal until it glowed bright orange. It twisted and worked, the tusk guard curling inward like it was screaming. The rain hissed against it, steam rising in thick gray plumes. Karg didn't look away. He watched until there was nothing left but molten shape and ash. Only then did he move. He stood and stepped under the bent oak. The thin branches gave little shelter, but it was enough to call it cover. Rain slid through anyway, tracing cold lines down his neck and over his shoulders. He didn't wipe it away, didn't move, just stood there, watching the last fire die, and listened as the storm rolled closer. Section 5, The Shattered Shelter. The rain came harder now, hammering through the branches until the world blurred into gray noise. Wind clawed at the treetops, and the ground gave off the smell of soaked ash and iron. Karg stood under the bent oak, his coat already heavy with water. The fire was dead. Nothing left but a hiss where the coals drowned. Every breath burned from the cold, not sharp, but deep, the kind that crawled inside and stayed there. He pressed his hand against the tree's rough bark, the chill biting through his fingers. Water ran down his scars, collecting in the lines like it was trying to erase them. The mask was gone. The fire had eaten it down to molten bones. And now, standing barefaced in the storm, Karg felt every sin the metal had hidden. Thunder rolled again. It wasn't just in the sky, it was in his chest, behind his ribs, moving like something alive. He leaned forward, both hands braced against the trunk. His breath came slow, ragged. Every inhale tasted of smoke and rain and defeat. He thought about the war, about faces he'd buried, orders he'd followed, and all the reasons that never mattered once the silence set in. He thought about the girl with her mother's eyes and the look she gave him when she realized he wasn't lying. For a moment, he almost wished she hadn't come at all. Lightning tore the horizon open. For one bright second, he saw the whole clearing, the mud, the broken logs, the dying fire pit, every piece of the life he'd built out of wreckage. Then the thunder came back louder. Karg straightened slowly, rain streaming down his arms. The oak above him shuddered. water spilling in sheets down its sides. The storm wasn't letting up. It was breaking everything it touched. He looked down at his hands, shaking, slick with mud and water. The pistol rested heavy at his side, waiting. His voice came low, almost lost in the roar of the rain. Enough of this shit. He pulled the weapon free, not to aim, not yet, just to feel the weight of it again. The wind howled through the clearing, carrying the last smoke away. Somewhere beyond the trees, something cracked, wood or thunder, or maybe the first sound of a new kind of trouble rolling in. Karg didn't move, didn't flinch, just stared into the dark and let the storm have its way. And that's where we'll leave it for now. The fire's out, the mask is gone, and the storm's just getting started. Come back next time to see what Karg does next. Does he find a fight, a reason, or just another night to survive? Thank you for sticking with the story this far. If you made it all the way through, drop a comment below and say truth.